Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah,
I'm Laura.
and we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now we are ba bum in the year of the Dresden,
The
and
year
we are
of the Dresden.
discussing the themes and characters of those summer nights. But before we get into it, Laura, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I haven't really read a ton or watched a ton really, but I did read
Laura?
a
Oh,
volume.
sorry,
What?
I was gonna say before Laura went on vacation for the first time and I don't know how long.
Yeah,
So
quite a
yeah,
while. Quite a
yeah. So
while.
you didn't have much reading time.
No, well, it was a family vacation situation, so it was we had like kind of a lot of people there. So I don't know why, but there was one opportunity I got to read like at the beach that we went to. I'm not a beach person, you know this, Hannah.
Neither am I. We both
I
famously want mountains and not sand. So
I just hate sand, honestly.
I hate
I
sand.
don't, we went on a boat and that was nice.
Oh, that
I
is nice.
I don't mind boating and I like to swim. I'm a good swimmer. Uh,
Mhm.
as far as sitting in sand, not a fan, but I tried it.
Yeah.
But also I've just come to learn that I have to be one of those people that reads in silence or just like quiet music.
Oh,
I don't think I can do all the chaos around me as much
that's fair.
anymore in terms of reading because I brought a book with me when we were at the beach and there was a ton of people around and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do this. I only got like a little bit read. But then when we were like back at the a house that we had all that we were all staying at, it was just a situation where it was like I wanted to interact with family and didn't want
Yeah.
to be like, excuse me while I go off and
How
read.
dare you? Yeah.
But I could use like, a couple months off just to do some things just by myself. I'm very much an introvert, so I enjoy my alone time. And I think that I could have just separate vacations. Like this vacation, I'm just going on hikes. This vacation, I'm just sitting and reading. So maybe soon I'll have another vacation where I can do that. We'll see. But I did read, this was a while ago. I wasn't going to mention it because I wasn't like that gaga over it, but I read A Gentle Noble's Vacation Recommendations by Misuki. I think that's who the author was.
Okay, I've
Uh,
never heard of that one.
oh, Misaki, it was the author. Apparently, this is like adapted from a novel,
Oh,
and
okay.
it was okay. It's a story where a person gets transported to a world where his country doesn't exist and there's
Oh,
no information about his world, and so he's trying to like start figuring out what's going on and trying to get back to like how did I get here, that kind of thing. And all the people around him kind of think like, oh, he's weird that
yeah.
he's trying to convince us that he's
This country exists.
yeah, that he's from another place that isn't real. It's got pretty artwork. It's cute, but I think this adaptation was just it just didn't hit for me. I was just
Mm.
like, this is maybe a 2.5. I don't, the
Oh,
dialogue was a
wow.
little choppy,
Mm.
and I don't know if it always flowed very well
Mm.
in terms of plot. I'd be curious to see the novel that it was adapted from, and I'm going to give it a couple more shots with some
Okay.
additional volumes because they're super short, and I do like the artwork quite a bit, but I just think that really the plot and the dialogue was just really choppy. And I don't know if this is a translation issue or if this is an adaptation issue. I'm not sure what it is. A lot of other people seem to like it.
Yeah.
I I just think that it's kind of missing for me at the moment. But the artwork kind of reminded me a little bit of Witch Hat Atelier, if
Hmm.
like, and that's a compliment to this artist.
Okay.
Momochi is the artist, according to Goodreads. I think it's pretty artwork. It's not quite at the level of Witch Hat Atelier, just because that is so incredibly detailed and beautiful. But I do think this has very much like that cozy fantasy, like village, countryside, fantastical vibe.
Okay.
But It's really just the
The
storyline and the dialogue. I'm just like,
okay.
what happened here? This had a lot of potential to be really cute,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure what's going on with the first volume, but I'm gonna give a couple more volumes a shot because I'm like, with things this short where it's something where a story has to like build, I feel like you can't stop at the first volume. I don't know why I think that with a lot of these mangas where I'm like, you gotta give it a little more of a shot.
It
But
needs a
I'm
little bit more room to cook. So
Yeah, it's got to bake a little longer, but I'm willing to keep trying with this series. If anybody's read it, shout at me because I'm curious to hear what other people think. Another thing that I read, I had previously read a Star Wars comic, a Darth Vader comic, like 2 years ago, I think. And I finally got to read the second and third volumes of it. It's written by Kieron Gillen, and then the artwork
oh,
was by Salvador Larroca and Eddie Granov. Really beautiful artwork in terms of Star Wars. I love the coloring and I love a lot of the still images or and action images of Darth Vader. Like absolutely gorgeous. There were a few of them where I'm like, I kind of want to like, take a picture of this and make it my background. How do I find a poster of this? Because it's really beautiful. I do think though, I kick myself for not just going straight from one to the next because when I was reading the
oh.
second volume, I was like, what's happening here? I forgot what was going on.
I have no
But
clue.
it's a good series. I once I kind of got about like a quarter of the way into volume two, I was like, okay, you got me back. I'm figuring this out now. But this follows like Vader on adventures of like missions that he's going on for the Empire because
Okay.
when you're watching the movies, there's these breaks in time and people are like, well, what happened in between here? So there's all these books and comics, and I think that the comics are really beautiful. I really appreciated the artwork. But I will say there's something about like switching from a manga to a comic book where I get so used to the way that I have to flip backwards on my
Read,
Kindle
yeah.
for manga and then I go forwards for go from left to right
Right.
for a comic book. It was really messing with me when I was having to switch like that. That was a fun thing that I
That
was like,
is a mind meld. I do
also
think. Oh, sorry. I was
go
gonna say I
ahead.
do think the manga you were describing though. I thought that sounded like it's a little bit of a bummer when things don't flow well when they sound like they have like a really good premise. Or I'm like that
It
premise
is a
sounds
good
so
concept.
right, and I'm like that's so frustrating when you read a book and you're like, dang it, I really like the idea of this.
Yeah.
Maybe you weren't the person to execute it. Is there another person who has done something similarly and I
And
can read their work?
and that's why I kind of want to read this book that it was adapted from to see like
Yeah.
what was the disconnect here? Because it does seem like a really cool idea, and I like the main character too. Liesel was cool. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna give it a shot. There's a lot more of these available. I
Of
did
course.
so Kindle Unlimited offered like a 3 month free trial, and I was like, sure,
Mm.
bet.
I could read 3 months
I
free of
Yeah, and then I'll
absolute.
close that and use another
Yeah,
email. Screw you,
exactly.
Amazon.
I think Amazon can take the hit.
Yeah,
But
they're fine. They're
yeah.
fine. Um,
Although I
but
always worry, I wonder what they do for like Kindle Unlimited for like the free subscription when it comes to authors. Authors who are
I
listening,
don't
shout us
know.
out and
I'm
let us know how
curious
that
how that all
works.
works because usually, like, I've never used Kindle Unlimited until now,
Right.
and I'm actually just using it for
For the free.
primarily
Yeah.
manga
Oh yeah, that's
and
fair.
comic books because this is terrible. But like manga and comic books, they when they have so many volumes, like if I had to buy 18 volumes of side
Oh my
characters' love
gosh.
story, that would be
Yeah.
so much money. So I got to just cruise through all of
Oh
those
yeah.
beautifully in this free trial. But yeah, I usually would just like buy books on Kindle if
Yeah.
they're indie authors, so I'm
Right.
curious how this works because I know that there's a certain thing where people are like counting their page counts or whatever,
Yeah.
how many
They
pages
count
have
how
been
much you
read
read.
on Kindle Unlimited. So somebody who's in the know, let us
At
know
us.
because
Yeah.
I'm curious how Kindle Unlimited helps authors and like what kind of profits you can see from this and how
Yeah.
you track like success via Kindle Unlimited or how it equates to like actual sales versus yeah, I'm curious about this.
Yeah.
And I have seen stuff too about like people saying like
I
books are
know that
being
like
returned.
yeah,
I saw Quimby
people mhm.
Olson put up something about that, like, hey, don't return ebooks after you read them. I'm like, who in the world is doing this? You jerks.
So
Stop
it's a
doing
lot of
that.
people who like are like, "Ooh, I found this great new hack," and it's returning my book and saying I didn't like it.
Yeah,
And
that's
like I think it is
stupid.
unethical
Don't do it's
for
incredibly unethical.
it's unethical for people who read it. I think it's really unethical for like booksellers to like push that back on the author to be like,
Yes.
"Oh, your book was returned. Now you don't get the profits for it." I do think that stinks a little bit because like
Yeah,
that's and I understand like with booksellers they have to make a buck too, but like at the same time I still don't think that the burden should fall on the author whose book was sold.
agreed.
It's weird. So
Agreed.
yeah, don't
Yeah,
return your
that's
Kindle books, people,
no,
because
don't
they just charge
people.
that back to the author. And like, wow, Amazon, not a good look for you.
No.
You have
And even better,
billion and billion
use Libby.
dollars. Yeah, use Libby or use
Because
Libro
I use Libby
FM.
a lot. I use Libro FM for audiobooks. I really enjoy that. I think that they have a really good app, honestly, for listening
Same.
to audiobooks. But Libby is a great way to access ebooks and
Mhm.
audiobooks. So use the heck out of that
Oh
because it's
yeah.
awesome. Um, the other thing I was going to tell you about, Hannah, this is a little bit different, but apparently I'm just like a dumb person that I didn't realize that when you get an oil change, your dealership will sometimes offer you like 3 month subscription to Sirius XM
Oh
radio.
yeah, yeah.
And I was telling my husband about that. He was like, "Oh yeah, and that would make sense too, because about every 3 months you would need an oil change,
Hmm.
depending on how much you drive." And I was like, "So you're telling me that I could have had Sirius XM radio for years?" So I've been listening to Sirius XM radio and
It's a good time.
specifically the Disney Hits channel.
You mean the channel for children on long
It's
car
not for children. They have that
rides?
geared toward millennials. What are you talking about?
That's amazing.
I mean, it does actually shift in the type of music that they play at certain times because,
Yes.
like, around 7 o'clock, they start hitting the High School Musical hard.
They're
Like,
like, it is Disney after hours, and we are
yes,
gonna get turned
they're like,
up
you know what?
on.
Millennials are on now. It's your time.
Do
It
you
is your
want to
time.
hear Drew Seeley and pretend that it's Zac Efron? Well, now is your time.
Breaking free. I was screaming it. It was, I
You were
loved it.
soaring, you were flying. There
Yes.
wasn't a sky
There
in
was
heaven that
there
you
was no
can't
star in
reach
heaven
or
that I couldn't reach.
star. So sorry. I messed up the lyrics.
How dare you?
I
I was just going to
constantly
ask you though, because I was screaming that song, and as I was singing it, I was thinking, what was the musical in High School Musical about? Do you remember?
I mean, they didn't really say because
It
it
had to be
couldn't
bizarre.
it had to be bizarre because like even the love interests could never kiss because two siblings were out for the lead roles.
But also
It,
the music changed so drastically depending on who got the roles. I was like, what kind of
yeah.
musical is
Well, at
this?
one point it's like upbeat and happy, and then once it's like sad and monotone,
And
and it's like
yeah, and then it's
this is it.
moody and
And like it
like
always only
what?
starred two people. It could never have a third person in it. Like what?
And that's
What?
what I was wondering too, because I'm like, there's only just a handful of people involved in this musical, but there's seemingly a lot of people who attend this school.
Well, and
How
again,
could
they
there
just
only be just two people that try out?
I also think like that school is insane because it's not that big of a school. And as someone who went to a small school has a podcast with someone else who was in a small
I
school,
don't know. When they do the lunchroom scene, it looks
people
like a lot are in there.
well, but like they all know each other and they're all like you can only be in one club. And it's like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
You
weird.
can't tell me that there's not one person who thinks like I want to go to Yale and they're like, well, I have to be in everything because if you're
Right.
not in all the things, they hate you. Like I was an
Yeah, I was in
overachieving
so many
child. I
things
was in
in
so
high
many
school.
things. I remember I was so bitter for like student of the month where like I wasn't picked until like third or fourth and I was like this is such bullshit. I'm in fucking everything and I earned this and it's a popularity contest. Like
So, how did Student of the Month work at your school?
so it was like the teachers picked the first one and then like students started being able to vote for like other student of the months got to help pick.
Oh,
And so like certain
interesting.
ones, I remember like by the time it got to me, like I was third or fourth, and like I remember one of my friends was like, "Yeah, we're all voting for you because we know you're supposed to get it." And I was like, "Exactly." But like it was definitely popularity based where everyone kind of made the decision together, which is a terrible way to do student of the month. How
Yeah,
did
that's a
yours
bad
do it?
way. So our school, like when I was in high school, they do it differently now because now it's a process where they have an outside group who they, if you want to be selected as student of the month, you have to submit an application and a short
We
essay.
did have to do that. Yeah.
And an outside group who obviously they're not teachers or anything, they pick who
Okay.
the student of the month is now. When I was in high school, you had to submit just a brief, like one page thing, no
Oh
essay,
no.
a brief one page thing, just like listing out your activities, your GPA, that kind of thing. And then the
Yeah.
teachers would all pick the student of the month. And
Yeah.
then the student of the year, you could fill out an additional form, and then an outside group would choose the student of the year.
Yeah.
But the teachers all chose student of the month from month to month. So it wasn't necessarily a popularity contest unless you were
But it
not
wasn't
popular with the
not.
teachers.
Yeah. Fair enough. What
So
I think about High School Musical all the time because of the one thing, and lots of people talk about High School Musical because we are millennials. But I specifically think about the fact that Drew Seeley is the voice of Zac Efron in the first movie, and then I think
why do
about Drew
I
Seeley.
not know Drew Seeley? Why
He
is that
was like
not sticking out?
very. So, do you remember the Selena Gomez Another Cinderella Story movie? Have you ever seen that?
Oh, I'm looking
Yeah.
at him now. That is interesting.
He was the
Okay.
voice because he had a very specific voice. And in Cinderella story, he was he was like 25 and Selena Gomez was like 15. It was
Oh,
so gross when you know that and then you watch it and you're like, get away from that young child, sir. Um,
here's the other thing though. I
I
feel
also
like
loved
I
that
saw
movie.
somebody talk about this though, where they were like, they didn't let Zac Efron sing in High School Musical, and he was just like, you know what? I'm gonna sing all the time now, and he's good.
He is good. I don't know why they wouldn't let him sing in the
I
first one, but they
know.
were like,
He's
Drew
got like
Seeley
a
has to
really
be the
poppy
voice.
voice too, where I'm
Yeah.
like, it would have worked perfectly. I I really enjoy his voice
I was rewatching
because he
or I
sings
was
in Hairspray and he sings
yeah,
in The Greatest Showman. He's a good singer.
he is a good singer. Well, I was thinking about Zac Efron because I was re-listening to the Bechdel cast stuff
Hmm.
and they did a High School Musical too. And I was thinking
Yeah.
about the bet on it scene and that was high camp when I was in high school. I remember watching that and being like, well, this is bad. Like
I remember
not his
watching High School
voice,
Musical
but
too and just thinking, what happened here?
it was so bad. Like we were both in the like heyday of High School Musical
Hmm.
where like I remember trying to learn we're all in this together. And I was a little bit too old. I was like on the cusp of being too old to be watching that, but my friends and I all watched it and we're like, we're watching it ironically. And really you're just like
And
a
you just
14-year
liked
old
it.
who
Yeah.
liked it.
I
I
was gonna
remember
say, I think I was in eighth grade
yeah,
when the
I
first one
was
came out.
14 because I remember being like, well, we're in high school. We're too old for the Disney Channel.
Hmm.
But like we all secretly
I
loved
was
it
gonna say
because
everyone still in high school was you're lying if you were a millennial and in high school you didn't like know about That's So Raven and
oh my gosh,
High School Musical.
I remember watching Hannah Montana when I was far too old for it. And I was like, look, I just enjoy it. My sister was like, yeah, just enjoy it, Hannah. You're fine. Like,
Right.
it's fine. But yeah, Drew Seeley in that Another Cinderella Story was 26 and Selena Gomez was 16. That's right up there with the
Yikes.
original Cinderella story where Hilary Duff was like 16 or 15. And and then Chad Michael Murray was like 27 or something. Like
Mm,
there's ridiculous age gaps in those
I don't
movies.
like
And
that.
why those specifically?
Also, just to while we're talking about Chad Michael Murray, um, you know how
Excuse
he
me,
was
it's
in
Murray.
Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
Um,
And he's going to be
well,
in Freaky Friday too.
well, I'm a little nervous about what's going on with that movie because somebody
Huh.
said that Manny Jacinto plays Lindsay Lohan's husband, and I was like, I love him
Oh,
so much. Kick Chad Michael Murray out of this movie now. We
he
need
better.
Manny Jacinto.
I hope he's just doing cameo then if we have Manny Jacinto as the love interest husband. Like,
He
why?
better be the love interest, and if she
Right.
leaves Manny for Chad, I'm gonna be devastated because what a bad decision.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that will be a really bad decision. I don't like that. I hope
I
they
know Manny Jacinto
make
is so
those.
hot.
He is so hot. You pick Manny Jacinto, and like Chad Michael Murray looks like he'd hit on you in a skeezy bar when you're like,
And
"I'm here with my friends." Like, no, thank
he's the guy
you.
that still has highlights,
Oh
like
yeah.
the bad ones, like the NSYNC ones.
Mm,
Like, no,
yeah.
come
Oh
on.
my God. Now I'm looking at guess how many Cinderella story movies there have been?
There's really too many of them, and that's all we need to know.
No, I want you to guess.
The six.
Oh, right on the money. You guessed
Was
the
it?
correct number.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember loving A Cinderella Story 1 and Another Cinderella Story with Selena Gomez. I did watch that movie quite a bit because I was around the same age as Selena Gomez at the time. I
They do
did
a lot
stuff
of
there.
like cover or not covers. They do covers on this Sirius XM too, this Disney one, but they do a lot of the like shows and like the
Oh,
Disney
yeah, they do a
movies,
ton
the
of those.
DCOM movies, the songs from those, and a lot of Descendants songs. Those must be extremely popular.
Descendants is huge lore. Like, I've seen to some of the Descendants.
I've never seen it, but that song,
Oh
"What's
my
My
God.
Name," it, like comes on
Ah,
all the time. Like people must love this one. I
what's
don't
my
understand why they're
name?
playing
What's
it
my
so much.
name? Uma.
Say it louder.
Uma.
And I was like, okay,
Um,
whatever. But they
I
do also have like there was a Lindsay Lohan song from Freaky Friday, I
Oh
think,
yeah.
that played, and I was like,
You're it.
oh my
You're the
gosh.
ultimate.
Yes,
It's
Ultimate.
automatic, I'm sure.
That was it.
So I'm gonna because okay, Freaky Friday is coming out with a new movie, so it's been top of the
Yeah.
mind. There are certain soundtracks that I listen to songs like unironically, like, no, this is
Mhm.
just in my normal play.
Yeah.
Many songs from Josie and the Pussycats. I listen to so many songs from
I
Josie
kind
and
of
the
love that.
Pussycats. It's oh my gosh, just listen to Pretend to Be Nice and Tell Me You're Not Having a Good Time because it's a great song. I don't care. I know it's a soundtrack song, but like, oh God, it's so good. And I was like driving home and I was like, I really want to listen to the Freaky Friday soundtrack. And like
Yeah.
put on some of the
Amazing.
bangers on it. Some of them are so good.
Yep.
So I
Honestly,
agree.
Freaky Friday was a really good movie.
It was a good movie.
I really
I
liked that one.
I always remember like as an adult, and when I watched it in high school, I remember thinking like, wow, Lindsay Lohan is so grunge. And then I was like, but why is her hair so stringy? And then when the mom like brushes it out, I'm like, but didn't she make a better choice for you? You had the stringiest, nappiest little hair. Like it was not good. Like she was
I
just
used
so
to love
stringy.
Lindsay Lohan. Oh my gosh.
We grew up in
Obsessed.
the era of Lindsay Lohan. I mean,
Yeah, she was great. Fantastic.
God,
Also,
yeah.
let me just gauge you on this. So before I get totally off Disney Sirius XM, they do a lot of cover songs, and some of them are quite good. And like one of them that I really enjoyed was John Stamos sang that song that the chef in Little Mermaid sings. That was pretty good. I was like, good for you, John Stamos.
John
But
Stamos.
let me gauge your reaction to this. I heard a cover from Aladdin
Mm.
sung by Matthew Morrison.
Ew. Ooh.
Thank you. Thank
Ooh.
you.
Ooh. I
Thank
feel
you.
like we have to tell Matthew Morrison that after Glee and his crimes
That
on
he
that
shouldn't do
show, he
anything.
shouldn't do anything anymore. He's just not a singer anymore.
The
Again,
way that I had like almost wanted to pull the car over because I was like, ew, Matthew Morrison and Aladdin of all things, come on.
uh
Mm,
I
he's the worst.
again, I will bring this up forever. I brought it up so many times in the podcast, but I would just like everyone to know that Matthew Morrison starred on it was a guest star on the TV show Younger, where he fucks a sheep, and I will never
Yes.
forget that. And so he can't, when he has characters like that, he shouldn't be singing Disney cover songs. And I
Or,
appreciate
like
his work,
Mr.
but
Shu
no,
was
Mr.
extremely
Shoes,
problematic, and I
he's
just
so bad.
hate that character. And
Ugh.
I don't know why. I don't know that much about Matthew Morrison as a person, but I'm just assuming it's bad.
Oh my gosh, Davy from Never Have I Ever is going to be on Freaky or Friday.
Yay,
I
that'll be
know.
good.
I know. I love her so much. She's so amazing. Sorry. Okay, so
But
you've been
Hannah, that's
listening to
it.
Sirius. I mean, it sounds like a great time.
Sirius
So,
XM, get your oil changed in your car, people.
uh, okay. Well, for reading, watching, and enjoying on my side, I read Love in the Big City by Song Young Park. It is a very short novel. It is It is written by a Korean author, and it's kind of like a very specific type of like almost a love story. Like it's called Love in the Big City, but I wouldn't say it's like necessarily a romance novel because it's not really about the like happily ever after or things like that. It's more about like just romantic relationships throughout this one character's lifetime, his own identity as he struggles to be a gay man in Korea, oftentimes in areas where you cannot be out openly. He cannot come out to his mother, but just like the life he builds with some of the romances that he has throughout his time and romances between him and like his college friend. And like I always say that like I like to use romance not just in the like sexual term, but also in like the like you can have a romantic relationship with a friend that is not sexual. It is just romantic. And so he has one with his old college best friend. He has one with a guy who's not the greatest. And then he has one later in life that is very fulfilling, but maybe it doesn't always have to end happily. I would say, so this is a translation from the original Korean novel. And I do think it's interesting to read these types of books that are like shorter and more poignant that are translations, because I think sometimes like certain things that we can't read on the page still come through like and some of the times in the book he's like, can we talk to each other in the impersonal Korean, or he
Hmm.
talks about like people who only speak personal versus impersonal and like things like that, and like I forget the term, it's not personal versus impersonal, but it's like proper versus like friendlier ways of
Hmm.
speaking. So there's different turns of phrases that we don't have in English. And I think that that's always interesting to read about, like the complexities of language and how it's used in these types of relationships. And I just thought it was really interesting. Like, I don't know if it's like a favorite book of mine, but I was really glad I read it. I kind of just picked it up because I saw it and I really liked
Sure.
the cover. Um, and I really enjoyed my time with it. I thought it was a really good book, but I like it was an interesting read. So I don't
Sounds
know.
like it.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it for people who like want to read a book that they're not used to reading, because I don't think that I don't think it's like a typical book that you would read.
Hmm.
And me
I
comparing it to anything
actually
else might
find that I
be,
do like translations quite a bit.
yeah. It's interesting to like read about where like the translation is like, oh, we're going to keep in like
Well,
what this,
especially when you're learning about a different culture, I think that
yeah.
it's really interesting. So in this one, it sounds like you're just kind of getting a glimpse into Korean culture and this man's life. And
Yeah.
I like those types of translations.
And so it was really good. I enjoyed my time with it. I also, because like I sometimes I just pick up a book from Libby that I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll listen to an audiobook on that. And so I listened to another Lucy Foley novel. I've read most of her
I was gonna
thrillers.
say, how many do you have left to read? There can't be that many.
So apparently, so like this is something that I've seen with a lot of female authors who end up getting famous for like thrillers, is they usually have genres that they tried to write in before they hit it
Hmm.
big in the thriller area. I think Ruth Ware is another one of those who I've read some of her work beforehand that
Hmm.
wasn't thriller based, but then later on it became thriller based.
Hmm.
Um, so Lucy Foley had other books she wrote before she became a thriller author that are historical fiction. And I
Interesting.
was like, interesting. I'm gonna listen to it. And then I was like, yeah, that was a Lucy Foley book. I don't know
I
what
was
I
ready
was
for you to say
expecting.
romance.
I mean, it was a romance technically. Like it is like supposed to
Hmm.
be like it's about this like man who kind of he's British, but he's living in Rome. It's after the war. He has like a lot of PTSD, and he's a writer, and he like takes this cruise with this like Italian contessa as they go to Cannes to show like this movie that she had of her like great grandfather's like love affair with this woman or something like that. And as time goes on,
Okay.
he falls in love with this other woman who was raised during like the Spanish Civil War, and she got married to this very rich man who's very cold, and like they fell in love. And it was kind of just like
The
I don't
number of times Hannah rolled her eyes as she's describing this. Like
I
she
just
rolled her eyes maybe 5 or 6 times while
again,
she's
I'm just
describing
going
this
to
book.
quote Harry Styles of like, this book was really a book. I mean, it had a beginning, a middle, and
Right.
an end, and it was fine. Like I gave it 3 stars. I don't think this book is terrible, but it is the most like mid book of most mid books where I'm just like, yeah, Lucy Foley, I can see. I also think like with reading this book, I've read this one in the Glittering Hour this year, both historical fictions, both kind of like post-war, like different extravagant, like we're great Gatsbying sort of, but not really. And
Okay.
I just think like maybe I'm not a historical fiction like breezy type girl. Like I like historical fiction when it's like about a time and a place, but I
Hmm.
like it more when it's a character study. And I think sometimes when it's like, look at this trauma I had as a white woman in the 1950s. And I'm like, okay, like, yeah, you definitely had struggles. And I'm not discounting that white women were also treated like absolute trash during that time. But like, and you were very wealthy and you had a lot of privilege.
Sure.
And isn't it weird that we're just reading another white, like, and people gush over this book? And I was just like, I
Interesting. I've
guess,
never even
like,
heard of it.
well, it's because, like, people, because I think it's people like
It's
you and
because
I
it
are
got buried by the
so.
hunting party.
No, I think it's because, like, when I looked on Goodreads, when I'm talking about the reviews of like glowing, and I think you and I are a very specific part of the internet where we are often like talking about books that are big on like Bookstagram or Book Talk or like what things we see that are like hitting library lists. Like, you and I know the books that are like very big in like reading communities, but if we're talking about
So
books
we're
that
in the know.
like my sisters read, they're going to be different than the books we read.
Oh yeah, just I mean
And
just the
so,
exposure to like if you're it's one of those things if you're seeking out the info to be like, "Oh, what are the popular books right
yes,
now?" Then you come across them
right. And this book was like,
versus
it came out in 2016, but like
yeah,
people were like giving it glowing recommendations. And I'm like, yeah, I could see if you're like a fan of this, but I could see like the subset of people who like to write reviews on Goodreads, but aren't like on the internet online about books, they would probably love this historical fiction. And I was like, yeah,
sure.
it was a book. I don't know. It was fine. Like it was a book. I listened to it on my way to work. Like I don't
How
who
was the
cares?
audiobook?
I liked the
British?
narrator. Yeah, I think it was British, and she did a really good job with the voices because like she had like affectations that are like the girl is supposed to have like some like Spanish heritage mixed in with her American, and so they talked like that, and like
Okay.
the Contessa definitely had an Italian accent, and that was fun because I like radio drama in my historical fictions, but also like I just don't think I love Lucy Foley very. I liked one of her books, and then the rest have
Okay.
been like, yeah, they're books that I listen to on audio and they pass the time. I
Yeah,
think
the
they're,
Paris apartment is one of hers, right?
yeah, I didn't like the Paris apartment. I
Me
thought that one
either.
was so stupid. I
Uh-huh.
liked, I
I
thought,
hate
I,
thrillers usually.
yeah, and she's definitely more thriller than mystery. I liked, The Hunting Party was fine because it was more mystery whodunit. And then,
Okay.
the Paris apartment was thriller, I would say, and
Yeah.
incredibly stupid. And then her third
The
one
whole
was the
thing
one
was
I
thrown out.
actually,
But
the
he's not
guest
gonna do it.
list.
The guest
I
list,
liked the
yeah.
guest list because that was the most whodunit of it all. But I don't know. She's fine. She's an author. She published books that are like, I think there are certain standards I have for audiobooks which are like, oh, this is a really good one that I want to listen to because it's great. And then like this is one step above what I'm feeling for podcast right now. Like I
Mm.
don't feel like a podcast, so I guess I'll listen to a throwaway book. And I think that's
Okay.
what this was, and it's fine. And then speaking of Disney, so okay, well first, okay, I'm gonna go, never mind, scratch that. But for watching, so as we talked about, my fiance Paul has not seen very many movies, but his sister has also only watched boy movies growing up
Okay.
because she had 2 older brothers, and she and
Boy
I are now
movies. Okay.
living together. And so I sometimes on Friday nights we just watch girl movies. We watch Crossroads, as you will remember,
Hmm.
and Coyote followed by Coyote Ugly. Great back-to-back double feature. And then
Yes.
recently, I found out she had never seen Miss Congeniality, which is one of my favorite movies of all
That movie
time.
is fundamental
It's
to
just
me.
so good. So we were like watching it. I was
I'm
like, you don't
obsessed with Sandra Bullock.
Oh my God. And like that movie is so good. And I'm just like, you don't understand. Like when I used to have to cross stitch every summer for 4-H projects. And so
Mhm.
I'd have to spend hours finishing like these giant tapestry projects. It wasn't like a little like trick or treat. It was like this
These were like
gorgeous, like
huge things
these
like
were
Harry Dresden would have in his apartment.
Yes, it was a tapestry. It was a Harry Dresden tapestry of a woman walking with a candle in her hand.
Yes.
But like I had to work on them. And so there were certain movies that I would watch on repeat because I could listen to it and enjoy
Hmm.
it without having to like
Without
watch it
stopping to be like,
happen.
I need to watch it.
Yes, like this is brand new information. It's why I'm really good at playing video games while we're watching TV nowadays because I'm like, no, I can do
Yeah,
both.
there you
It's
go.
fine. Um, but anyway, so I was like, you don't understand how many times I've seen Miss Congeniality because it's one of my all-time favorite movies. And so we
Same.
watched it, and she was like, no, that was really good. And oh God, it's so, so good. Just like, and we were talking about how good the like comedic timing is, how good their
Yes.
voices are in it. Like Sandra Bullock has the best way of doing her line delivery in that. Like I kept walking around going, I had no idea like that she's talking to me.
I
And there
honestly love almost all of her movies, I think.
oh
I just
God.
love her.
She has some big old bummer ones, but like I do like most of her movies. So, but like, oh God, it's
I
so
even like
good.
the bummer ones because like Hope Floats is so
Oh,
depressing.
Floats. That's not a great movie, but it
I
is
love it.
Oh, I love that you love Hope Floats.
My sister
Um,
loves it too.
oh,
We're big Hope Floats people.
oh, good.
My
Um,
sister really likes depressing movies though because she likes that one. She likes Simon Birch.
oh
Like that
God,
one is
Simon
incredibly
Birch is
sad.
so dark. Oh gosh.
Yeah, she loves like all of those type of movies. So
Okay, fair enough.
yikes. But I do love Sandra Bullock though, like
So
Practical
good.
Magic,
Oh,
like
Practical Magic.
so
I
many of her
watched
movies.
Practical
Like
Magic
I
growing
love it.
up. Oh God, I love it.
I even
Um,
like The Proposal a lot.
Oh, the proposal's so good. It's a good
Hmm.
time. No, but my sister-in-law's favorite line was the friend, Rhode Island, when she's like, well, you could do something with a flaming baton. And she goes, oh no, my parents really don't like anything ostentatious, and they really don't like fire.
Amazing.
It's such a good line. April 25th, because it's not too hot and not too
Not too cold,
cold.
just
All
need
you
light
need is
jacket.
light. Oh gosh. So we watched that and then I was like, "Oh my gosh, we have to watch Drop Dead Gorgeous next because
Yes.
like Drop Dead Gorgeous is nowhere on the internet. You
Oh,
can't
really?
stream it anywhere." So
Interesting.
she has reserved it from the library and we will be watching it soon. But instead, we watched another movie I remember watching so much as a child. And when I tell you this movie is absolute
If you
horseshit.
say Little Shop of Horrors, I
No.
will scream.
No,
Okay.
I didn't see Little Shop of Horrors until I was an adult. No, we were like on the theme of beauty.
Okay.
There is a Fran Drescher movie from 1997 called The Beautician and the Beast.
Well, we're covering that on the pod.
Laura Fran Drescher plays a beautician who is hired because this man thinks she is a science teacher to go teach this president's children American ways in this like know nothing like tiny little country. And
Wait,
at the
what?
beginning
The
he goes, yeah.
beautician is teaching.
So he thinks she's a science teacher because
Okay.
she was doing a
Because
night
why?
school. She was doing a night school and there was a fire where she had to save all the science animals. So there was a photo of her in the paper. Did he ask for credentials? No. Did he do a background check? No. Did he see a photo of her holding ferrets? And he was like, science teacher? Yes. That is a
Ferrets, that
plot
does
point.
it.
So he
That
hires
always
her
reminds me of science.
and she goes to teach the kids and then they like have to keep it secret because like she moved and like she needs, and then she ends up falling in love with the president. I used to watch this movie on frickin' repeat when I was like between the ages of like 8 and 12, maybe 15. Who knows? I loved this movie. My mom watched it with me so often. We thought it was hilarious.
I've never heard of it.
Of course, you've never heard of it. No one should have. So when I tell you that we watched it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I loved this movie as a childhood. This may have been done with or without an edible. That's for your guys's decision to make on where Hannah's head was at when this was happening. Um, we're watching it and we get to the point where she meets the beast, obviously. And all
Mhm.
of a sudden you find out that he's a dictator. He's not a president. My sister-in-law was like, Hannah, is he a dictator? And I was like, honestly, I blocked that part out. I had no memory of him being a fascist dictator. But it's blatant. Like, there are key plot points that are contingent on him being a dictator, Laura. And young Hannah was like,
So
this is a fun time. And the only thing that I
like
can
the spell
excuse
is
it.
lifted when she gets him to give up
So
fascism.
when he, yes. So a key plot point of this movie is his daughter is in love with a man who wants democracy. And he locks him up
What?
and he locks him up in a dungeon as a political prisoner because he's trying to overthrow the government. And it's like, please let this young child go, dictator. And he's like, I'll think about it. And then he does it. And she's like, well, I can't be with you anymore. I can't do this. And then he's like, at the end, he's like, I'll let the kid go. And it's like the bare fucking minimum. Listen, I decided not to execute a political prisoner.
I'm speechless.
Laura, I loved this movie growing up. And then my sister-in-law was like, Hannah, what the fuck? And I was like, honestly, my only excuse is I'm pretty sure I thought he was a king and I did not know what a dictator was. Like he puts him in a dungeon. There are no criminal courts here. But Fran Drescher does unionize
So Hannah, it's on
workers.
eBay for $8.50. Should I just buy it?
I think you should. I think it's really important that you and I cover this for the podcast.
I mean, it sounds like it's Christmas.
I think
it sounds very Christmassy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does sound very Christmassy. It sounds like a great
that
Christmas
our listeners
film.
would really like to hear about it at Christmas time, the happiest time of the year.
The happiest time of the year where you
how
fall
to
in
cure
love.
fascism.
Through the power of love, Laura. And I remember being like so horny for the young son. And I like looking at him, I'm like, he's in two scenes. Why was I so obsessed with him? And the guy's supposed to be a beast in it, like the dictator.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So
I mean,
he is often, he's the beastiest of the beasts, honestly. And he's often growling. And I remember being like,
oh my.
that's such a good way to flirt. And now as an adult, I'm like, my sister and I were like, ew, what's growling? Like, it's so funny. Oh gosh, I love this.
How many minutes is it? Please be like around 2 hours. That would
no, it is a brisk movie. It is 107 minutes.
Oh wow, that is fast.
107 minutes. There is not much to it.
I was hoping it was like Marvel length.
No, it's not. And
I could probably put up with 3 hours of that in one sitting, but I had to break up Endgame. But I
also
watched Beautician and the Beast.
I also again I was like so horny for the son, and he was just Robbie from Seventh Heaven.
I gotta look up who it is.
Adam Lavorgna.
Oh, okay, yeah, I recognize him. Yep.
Yeah, he's a good-looking man. I love a brunette
he was
man.
Cute.
And then Timothy Dalton was the Beast. What a weird movie. Guys, I
you
can't.
mean Boris Pachenko?
Boris Pachenko. But he would go, Boris Pachenko.
Although this picture that I'm looking at, this still from the movie, what kind of hair did they give Boris Pachenko? That is some really spiky hair.
It was 97, Laura. But oh God, what a weird movie. Yeah.
What a ride. I can't wait to cover it on the pod.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, listeners.
Everyone go watch it and you're welcome. Yep. So that is what I've been reading, watching, and Laura was like, I don't know if I have that much to talk about. And I was like, I have plenty because I knew I was bringing this gift to the podcast.
That was wonderful.
You are welcome. A movie that Hannah loved so much as a child and watched and thought, wow, Hannah as a child had shit taste.
You know what? I love some of those things though, like those things that are like so dear to your heart that you're like, you probably shouldn't have been watching that. Even like I love the I used to watch the VHS of Little Shop of Horrors at my grandma's like all the time. And I thought you were gonna say I watched Little Shop of Horrors, and I was like, I will scream if you say that you watched that. It was terrible because I loved that movie.
No, it's yeah, I don't know. It's so and I mean like this got terrible reviews when it came out.
Probably not now. I'm sure Rotten Tomatoes would be kind to it.
Critical reception. It has a 22% based on 23 reviews. Robert Ebert gave the film 2 stars. Oh, praising Drescher's performance, but saying audience would be unable to empathize with her character since we never really feel she's really uncertain, insecure, or vulnerable. So, okay, sure.
It also sounds like they typecast her if she was a
Yeah.
beautician. Like, come on.
And then film.com criticized the plot for lacking humor and character development.
Don't make
Uh
a fascist as one of the main characters. I would say there's a lot of character development if they didn't have a place of growth like that.
Carrie Rickey described the film as tasty cake of snack movies and shameless
What
and
the heck does that
intermittent.
mean?
Tasty cake is like really like just like the worst sugary stuff you could eat. I think that there were like Razzies given for
If I
this.
would have
No,
heard
there
that
weren't.
review, I'd been like, that's nonsense. So I
Uh,
have no idea what you're talking about.
but it's so funny. I loved that movie so much. What a weird time. So yeah,
I love it.
she convinced the workers to unionize at in the evil dictator like country. Um, God, I
Can't wait to
can't.
cover it. I've got it on the schedule already. I just updated it while we were sitting here.
Laura and I had been talking about what Christmas film to cover, and Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, it's happening.
So yeah, that was the beautiful Beautician and the Beast. Shall we get into the Beautician and the Beast of the Dresden Files? Who would
I
the Beautician
suppose.
be, and who would the Beast be?
I mean, I I guess Harry Dresden is the beautician.
I guess is his godmother the Beast?
It's got to be one of the fairies.
Yeah, maybe Aurora because she was the big bad.
Yeah, she was the bad
Yeah.
one.
But
Sure.
she also, well, she
She
thought
could
she
be a
was doing,
fascist.
you know what? She could be a fascist. She's like, there's just so
Yeah.
much pain in the world. I'm going to burn it all to the ground. And I
Let's
do feel
just
like that could
destroy
be.
it all. I'm Thanos.
So, yeah, yeah, I guess Harry Harry Dresden,
Yeah,
beautician. Um,
it all fits.
well, Laura, you and I actually enjoyed this book.
I
Shocker of all
really liked this
shockers.
one. I really like
I
this one.
This one was so good. It was so good.
Honestly, some of my biggest critiques of this one, because I felt like there was a lot less misogyny in this, which,
Yes.
what a breath of fresh air. Like, breathing
Yes.
in that nice summer air.
All Harry needed was his sister lover back, and then all of a sudden his misogyny was fixed.
You know what? If that's all it took. But this, I think the biggest critiques I did not like at the beginning of this when we had the big council meeting that there's a man who's named Injun Joe.
Excuse me, put some respect on his name. It's Native American Joe.
Yeah,
What a
that
bad
joke
joke.
did not sit well either. I wasn't a big fan of that. There was another moment too. I thought we addressed this earlier, and I'm trying to remember what it was exactly. Oh, it was Harry talking about sexual assault,
Yes, and ignoring
which
his
was
own
yes,
sexual
which was
assault.
handled very poorly. But honestly, Hannah, those two moments stood out to me as like, nope, don't like that. But the rest of the book, I really enjoyed.
I thought it was it's just such a good switch to the problems we've been having with the other books. And I know we've
Mhm.
said this on the other plot, like recaps that we did, but like the actual plotting of this book made so much more sense where I felt like I was
The
actually
flow was
reading a book.
amazing.
And I was just like, oh, I understand what led them here. I understand how
Mhm.
they got here. I understand Harry's line of thinking and how he's using his magic versus his excellent detective skills. Um,
Do you
like it
think it was
all
just like so jarring that it was because I was wondering about this. I was like, was it because Grave Peril was so all over the place that because this one just kind of had some kind of structure that we're like, this is amazing? Or or was it actually amazing? Like I'm unsure now at
I
this point
actually
because I'm like, I don't
so
know
it
if it's just because I was just all shook up from the events of the last book that I'm like, this one,
so if there was
excellent.
any critique on like the plotting of this book, the one thing that I never thought like quite made sense was Harry's sudden like showdown with his godmother, where all of a sudden she's like, I'm going to sit here and pet you and admit how I've been pulling
Mhm.
the string. Like I didn't need that section.
You mean like when she was like, I've been following you all along and
And
I was
screaming homophobic
chamber
rants at you.
downstairs. She was
Yeah.
screaming slurs. Like, why?
There are
You could
so many
just
other
be a
ways.
normal stalker.
Yeah. So I think that that's the only
Number
part, but I
one rule
also
to stalking is not yell.
but she also and like that was the only like disjointed part where he has to like drive to the far reaches of North Chicago to call her down. Like okay, sure.
Up in Palatine.
Yeah, up in Palatine. I'm pretty sure it was Evanston, but like you have
On
to
the
drive.
college campus? Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
like to the rolling hills of Evanston and be like, Fairy Godmother, come tell me some plot points. I didn't need that section
Yeah.
because I thought, but I also understood where it's like, okay, he did have to figure out a way to show her the like, in between area that wasn't
Mhm.
quite the Never Never, and but wasn't quite Chicago. And so I understood it better. But like, I do think that that was the one part that was disjointed. Everything else, it did make sense. Like, there is a
Yeah.
war going on. There's this setup. There's this like, I don't want to help them, but now I do have to help them. And here's my me doing my detective skills. Here's me actually asking questions. So I think like I do think there's probably something to pick at with us. And I think you're probably right that we're like, wow, it wasn't Grave Peril. So like what
And
a change.
yeah, I don't know if I'm just like coming off of that book and I'm just like, this one's excellent because that one was so bad.
Yeah, I the more I think about it, the more I can be like, okay, well, like it didn't always make sense how he ran into the changelings. Like he would just randomly run into them, and I'm like,
Mhm.
well, Harry, that doesn't make sense. But I also think like it made better
I'm willing to
sense for
excuse that because I feel like it's
yeah,
it's still made
better.
enough sense
There
that
was
I
enough there.
yeah.
And
I also just feel like the world building in this was tied in so much
mhm,
nice. It was really neatly tied in, I should say. It was creative. Like the world building was creative and also the way that it was tied in, it was like at the correct time. It made
mhm.
sense. It wasn't like something where it was just like, you know what, we're just going to have Bob do some big exposition dump and tell us all these things. And then we're going
Loop
to go over,
gurus exist, and
yeah,
then
loot buffaloes and all these different things. And
yeah,
like, and just give us a little nugget of like, oh, here's an interesting piece of information. We'll never learn about that again until we're in the midst of a fight, and then Harry has to like attack somebody and
remember,
needs
yeah.
that useless piece of information. And it's like, okay, well, this is very disjointed. But I felt like the world building in this was really good. And I just felt like even the characters and creatures, like everything that tied together when we like I mentioned previously, like I think I love unicorns now. I thought that he did a really great job working in some of these unique fantasy elements
Yeah,
that he was trying to do that in previous books and it just didn't hit the target the right way. But this book, it really did. Maybe fairies and unicorns, like this type of fantasy, is actually Jim Butcher's like wheelhouse.
right.
And loop gurus are not.
Well,
Well, actually, not loop gurus. It's
it was
ghosts.
more the
Ghosts
ghosts.
are
Yeah,
not his.
but
Ghosts
I
and
actually
vampires are
liked
not
the
his
ghosts. It was
wheelhouse.
the vampires I didn't like. Like
Yeah,
I liked the thought of the ghosts and things like that. And if he had kept going on that, I would have been
yeah.
interested. But then he had to like bring in the
He had switched to vampires. Vampires are not his thing, apparently.
no, not really his. And I think we're gonna get more of them,
Or oh yeah, there's
unfortunately. So like,
totally a war coming. So
yeah.
yikes.
But I do think like the last couple books we read almost felt like they were like character backstories that shouldn't have been
Mhm.
public. Like how they say sometimes like writers should write like character backstories for their own use. And
Mhm.
then when we dive in, it's this. I actually feel like the last couple books were more like character background discussions of like, well, here's how Harry and Murph met. Here's how they did this. Because like he almost
So
tried to do
people
that in the
on.
first book, but like it didn't feel successful. It felt successful in this book to
Mhm.
say like Harry's been here. Here's where we're at. Here's some stuff that happened to Murph and why she is the way she is. Here's where he starts trusting her. And it actually felt like it's a turn of the plot where it's actually like, well, now the characters get to be a part of the story instead of being told things about Harry's story.
People
Sorry.
on Reddit were talking about this series and they were saying that they think, and I want to say that Passa also mentioned this in Discord,
Mhm.
that it was felt that like the first three books were just a lot of like setup, and
Yeah.
that this was finally like where it all starts to make sense. And I get that, but at the same time, it's like I really feel like editing a little heavier could have
Yeah.
helped those books. Like I don't know that I'm willing to just be like, it's fine to write three books if they're all just set up for one. Like
Yeah.
I get it that it's a super long series, so there's a lot to work with here, but I'm questioning like, okay, if somebody else were to try and publish this series now, would they be allowed to be like, here's the thing, I need three books for setup, and then once we get to the fourth one, there's no way a publisher would go with that.
No.
Like I just can't even imagine that happening today. So it's curious to me if that actually was the intent.
I don't know.
That
Like,
I don't know.
I feel like, and some people have also like reached out to us on this, where they talk about how like some of the older ones leaned more heavily into the like noir feeling of
Yeah, Passive
like,
was also mentioning that.
yeah, of like, this is a damsel in distress, and isn't she so, and like,
Mhm.
she's really gonna two-time me. And they almost were, I feel like in Jim Butcher's mind, he just wasn't ready for an actual series. It was more one-off. And I've brought this up too, where like, I think sometimes the books of the early 90s and early aughts were all kind of read as like standalone novels with the same characters, where like in each character, like each book, everyone expected people not to like binge books or like binge read stuff. It was like, oh yeah, I pick up a book like once a year. I always think about like, I remember reading JD Robb books, and a lot of times like the setups for the JD Robb books, which is Nora Roberts' moniker when she's writing a
Mhm.
very specific series, like the first three chapters were catching you up on all the characters you already know.
Yeah.
And it was just like, well, this is the character who does this. This is the character who does this. And it all like resets back to zero a lot of the times. And there's very little movement in between novels. And it's just kind of the same characters doing everything over and over again, which I think you can also see in media where it's like you and I have recently talked about House. You and I have recently talked about like Law and Order SVU. And there's always like movements with characters, but they're never moving that much. Like they're usually
Mhm.
just moving like a little bit, and then it's just the same shit over and over again. And I do think the way we used to consume media was very different, where like it was more acceptable to have like the three book setup. But you're right, nowadays, like you could not get away with how
Right.
much setup you would have to get for these books.
Yeah, I don't know that it would be possible. Like
No.
I just I don't know. I feel like you'd have to if you came in and said that like if, I feel like a publisher reads Grave Peril, they're like, you need to edit that. Like that needs trimmed down. I
This is a chapter, sir.
like that needs trimmed down. That
Yeah.
it's
I
not
don't.
gonna fly. So that blows my mind. But here we are like 20-ish years later after the book was published. So obviously things have changed. Publishing has changed. The genre has changed. But I do think it's interesting if we were to like know the motive behind the development of the series.
Yeah.
If Summer Night was supposed to be like, this is the one where I'm taking it off with the series, and I had three setup books to kind of like get you into the world, introduce you to Harry as a character, and kind of give you a little bit of background on Karen Murphy, on Harry and his life and experiences a little bit. Because we do get that in those three
Yeah.
books. Absolutely. But at the same time, it's like Butcher, we are learning now in this fourth book, has the ability to trim it down and write really concisely. So, uh, why?
Yeah. I
Like,
it's
I don't know.
it's also so weird to like, because these books are still loved. Like people pick them up all the
Yeah.
time and they
Hmm.
get into them. And so, and I know again, we've heard like start on the sixth book, and I hate when there are books in the series and people are like, you don't need to read the first five. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like
It's a series.
it's a
Like,
series. Like, and it's just so strange to me to read that. Or like people like you and I read the Murderbot Diaries.
mhm.
And like Martha Wells has been like, oh yeah, read them out of order. Read them in like, don't read them in publishing order. We were like, no, we're gonna read them in publishing order.
Yeah.
It's just like a different timeline, and that's fine.
Hmm.
But I don't think like it's weird for us to say this because obviously we're analyzing the books, so we're going to overanalyze them. It's weird to say like, well, you never get these first three books, but I'm like, but people still love those first three books because
Yeah,
they keep reading and they love Harry Dresden. So,
yeah.
I mean, that just goes to show that we are two people who knows what we're saying other than a deep analysis into these books.
I do think that's interesting though, in any type of series really, where people recommend skipping certain books because
Yeah,
I guess I feel like if I would have come in just on this book, I don't know that I would have had the same experience and probably
that's
wouldn't have liked the
true.
book as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's
because
interesting that like big time fans would even say like just jump in at book 6.
I also think that
So
that's a very, I would like to talk to a person who actually jumped in on book six and like
yeah.
what their experience was. Because I think a lot of people who are like looking back skip until book six. But did they actually mean that? Or do they mean like, well, that's when
Yeah.
I started liking it a lot. And I think other people
And
will enjoy it at that
And
point.
exactly, there's two different ways to say that. You can either actually mean jump in at that time, or you can mean the books start to flow and
Yeah.
develop better at this
Hmm.
point. But
Exactly.
I do think though it's not impossible to jump in skipping books with this series because I do think that we get enough info just in one book that it could almost be like a standalone type situation. I do think it's possible if you wanted to skip books or just come in like, oh, I'm just going to come in at book 5 or whatever.
Hmm.
I'm I think it's possible. I
Yeah.
wouldn't personally recommend it, but I do think it could be done.
I'm also a hypocrite in this because I often tell people like, oh yeah, I love Black Mirror. Don't watch the first episode.
Well, that's very different. Uh,
Those are all insular. You don't need to read all it.
Yeah,
And honestly, I've never actually seen the full first episode. I've only seen the
yeah,
beginning and the end. And so I knew, hey, that middle, probably not that important. I have
yeah,
experienced all I needed to experience out of that episode. So
yeah.
yeah.
Hannah, what did you think about the characters in this book?
So I really enjoyed Murphy's development in this. I also didn't love the fact that we kind of just this is also early 2000s. We kind of just gloss
Mhm.
over the fact that she was probably a little bit
Well, she's dealing with
groomed.
PTSD.
She's dealing with PTSD, but I don't like the fact that we kind of gloss over the fact that she got married at 17 to someone who was
Hmm.
27 at the time.
Yeah.
Because that is in fact grooming. It's that's not okay. And I
Mhm.
don't think again, it's weird characterization to find out about Murphy this late, especially when she's also still feels like deeply romantic feelings for this former
Yeah.
partner, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of like emphasis on like, oh, that's not great. Like, how is she handling that? I thought it was a weird choice for Butcher to make for Murphy.
I don't know why there had to be such an age gap, honestly. Like
Yeah.
this same storyline could have worked with less of an age gap or like just make her 19 or 20. Like what's the
Yeah.
difference? I don't understand, but I do feel like it's very much just a setup to make her single so she's more available to
Yeah.
Harry. That the guy that she liked is out of the way now. So because he died tragically, and who's she going to run to for comfort? Harry Dresden. Like obviously that's what's happening.
Yeah.
I feel like those two will be together because Susan's being a vampire somewhere, and
She's being an almost vampire. We don't understand, but
that's
we
right. She's trying to control herself so she
Yes.
doesn't go full bore. But yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
that's very much a setup for Karen to be available to.
Again, I just don't
But
that when
I
we
I
try to make women's backgrounds based on like
I agree with you that it's very
yeah,
problematic.
right.
It doesn't have to always be a situation where it's like I was young and I loved an old and more mature man. But then again, if you were her age, you would be obviously very attracted to someone who's older than Harry Dresden because he is so awful.
Yeah, but also like that's even like Harry Dresden shouldn't be dating someone who's 17. He's 27
No,
at this point. So
absolutely
like
not.
it's just or he's 20 like 5 or 26. So it's just
Yeah.
weird to be like, wow, she just had this great romance with this man who really wanted her to settle down. And I'm like, yeah, no shit, they got divorced. She was 20. And he's like, why haven't you
Yeah.
started popping out them babies? Like she wanted
Like,
to build
no,
her career.
still a baby herself, so not gonna
Yeah.
work.
So I didn't love that characterization for her, but I do love like
No.
actually showing how capable she is. Like Harry
She
disclosing a bunch of
finally got
stuff
to be
to her.
capable, like when they were
Yeah.
in the Walmart doing things and
The
shoot, and
Walmart.
she, well, they were in
I
Walmart
know. No, I
in the
just
garden
love
center.
like, yeah.
Uh, I do appreciate though that we get to actually see like a character do things, be capable, and also be a woman that's
Woman.
fighting.
Yeah.
Because if you would have asked me in the last book if we would have seen a woman fighting, being doing cool stuff, I would have questioned it because
Couldn't
other
be me.
times when Karen's had the opportunity to fight, she's been taken out of the picture. So,
Yeah. And I do think like I think it's good. You and I talked about like the fumble with Harry's own sexual assault, but I do think it's good to recognize that like there are different types of assault,
yes.
especially in a magical world, and the like invasiveness of the, demon ghost, not demon, but like
Mhm.
evil ghost of the last book did have resounding effects on her where she is suffering from
Yes.
PTSD. And like Harry is like, well, this was akin to being assaulted. He
Mhm.
says sexually assaulted. I think, there is a like loss of control, a loss of senses control. So I don't think the comparison is not there,
It's
especially
not a
in that
one-to-one,
it's not a one to one, but yeah.
but I think it's worth noting for sure.
Yeah. And so I think that that's good. It's more the lack of like seeing Harry, but I do like seeing her as someone who is capable. I like seeing where she's going with this, and I like seeing her actually being a better detective than Harry. And sometimes because it's like, yeah, she
Yeah.
has been trained in this, and Harry is someone who's like, I put my name in the phone book, and now I'm a detective.
Well, I think
Like,
it makes sense if we're going to have all these times when Harry says that she is like
hmm
so good and does all these great things for Chicago, but then like all we were seeing in previous books is Harry just being like, Kieron, I'm trying to protect you, step back. And then he just takes off without her and does something, and it's like, okay, but I thought Kieron was really good at her job. Wouldn't she have called some of these things happening?
No,
And
no, Laura, wrong,
right.
wrong.
How dare I assume that? But in this book, we do actually see her start to like put things together and
hmm
she does some work. She actually, can wield weapons and stuff like that. She's
Yeah.
cool. Like
Yeah.
it makes sense. And we see that like some of her peers really respect her and stuff too.
Can
So,
I tell you that I hope in future books we find out that she is the person who loves the doilies? Because I think there is not enough representation in books about women who love kicking ass, but
and
also
are also
love
like
a
cute
cute little
things.
thing. Yeah, like
Yeah.
guess what? Women can kick ass and they can love doilies. Is
I
that a
love that
yeah.
I also like that we do not have to assume people are like monoliths that they like only like you know what I only love really cute stuff. Like I can't handle anything else. It's like no, like you can love all sorts of stuff. You can watch a horror movie and then also go sing Disney songs. Like that's
Yeah.
totally fine.
We do that all the time.
I
So
constantly do that.
oh my
Maybe not horror
gosh.
movies, but I watch stuff that's
Again,
scary.
people have told me that the most shocking thing about me is my obsession with the Scream franchise. I'm like, but I freaking love that franchise. It's a good franchise. Like,
There's
leave
lots
me
of
alone.
screams.
I also grew up watching Beautician and the Beast. I contain multitudes.
There you go. Yeah, I know
Uh,
I appreciate that about Karen though too. I think that hopefully Butcher is getting to a point where he's feeling a little more comfortable writing these characters
mhm.
and that he's built up enough so far that he is going to continue to kind of just roll with it rather
Yeah.
than feel like he has to lean so heavily on Harry to carry the whole story,
hmm
if that makes sense. Because I feel like that was maybe the thing that was happening in previous books that maybe kind of felt like Harry was the book. The book was about Harry. We got to have Harry, Harry, Harry.
Yeah.
And so that might have taken away from the other characters a bit. But now we're getting to a point where we can start to see some of these other characters, especially Karen, in a different light and give them a little more
hmm
light.
I agree. What did you
What did
think
you
of
go ahead?
Elaine?
Wild story with Elaine.
Laura
Honestly,
cannot get over the sibling
I
relationship,
cannot get over the
guys.
sibling thing. I'm like, wait a minute, you guys are like foster adopted siblings? Like, and you dated?
I'm Laura, I need you to go watch Meet the Fosters.
No, because now I know what
No?
it's about.
I mean, it's not just about that.
I
And
can't handle it, apparently.
at
I
some point, they make a wild switch, and it's very
no.
so. In Meet the Fosters, small spoilers for this train wreck of a TV show that I've never watched a single episode of, but I do know
Oh,
this
well, then
plot
why are
point
you recommending it to me?
because there is a plot point where the girl, the entire like first season, is like, "Do I want to get adopted by this family, or do I want to fuck their son?"
Oh,
That
good
is a
gosh.
huge.
This is
And
Harry
then
Dresden's exact
yeah, this is
situation.
his exact situation. And the night before she gets adopted, they have sex for the first time, and then they never speak of it again. And they just get over each other
Oh,
because now she is his sister. But they did do it before
oh,
she was his sister.
no.
What a wild time the early aughts were. Lord, this is why he thought it was appropriate to do, because many people thought that was a good plot line.
I
Have you ever heard about the TV show Dexter?
I know of the TV show
So the TV
Dexter.
show Dexter, small spoilers for Dexter, guys. The entire premise is he and his adopted sister like were raised together. They were foster children together. They were raised together. And she is a police detective and he is a serial killer. But at some point in the
But
real
he's a serial
life,
killer who kills serial killers.
yeah, he's a serial
Good
killer
guy.
who, oh my gosh, he said a sociopath who has a heart of gold. But like during the course of the events of this show, they started dating in real life. And so people were like, well, their chemistry is insane. So like, what if they start developing romantic feelings for each other on the show? So they did that, akin to the brothers and sisters storyline that I once brought up, where they also thought they were siblings until they started dating in real life. And then they were like, well, they can't act like they aren't into each other. So we're just going to say that they're not actually siblings and then they're going to get married. What a wild time the early 2000s were. Why were people so obsessed with the relationship of like familial people who weren't technically blood related still having sex with each other? What a wild time. Why did we do that,
Because
guys?
it's quote unquote taboo.
Yeah,
Like
for a
where
reason.
it's like, you know what? This is technically okay because they're not blood relatives. We're not in Tennessee, and
Oh
it's
God.
okay for us to
It's okay
like,
because he's my first cousin. You know how you have like
yeah.
cousins and then
Isn't it
first
Tennessee where you
cousins
can
and then
like marry your first cousin?
I
I
think
can't.
so.
I want to say it's
Yeah.
Tennesseans are going to be really mad if I'm getting this wrong.
All the Tennesseans who listen to the show coming out of the
I'm
woodwork.
so sorry if this is not your
Uh,
state, but I wanted to say that it was like some middle ground state in there that was, I don't- wanted to say it was Tennessee where you can marry your first cousin, but it bothers me. But
First, okay, as of April 2024, there are still 17 states where you can marry your first
that is
cousin.
17 too many.
And Tennessee is one of them. So Tennessee
Okay,
people
well,
don't
say
come at us. So that is 17. It is, you know what? It's 100 too many. All states
it's
should be like
it's too
absolutely
many
not. Yeah,
states.
it's too many states. This is gross.
Yeah, that's too many.
Your parents are siblings. It's gross.
But yeah, it's very much because it's like a taboo thing that people are
Mhm.
like, you know what, we're not actually related and we're able
But
to, but we shouldn't do it. We shouldn't
ew, oh
because
God.
we're siblings. Like, oh, we shouldn't, but we have our bedrooms right next to each other, so it's convenient. And it's like, ew,
I know.
stop.
I don't know, but people were obsessed with that kind of stuff. So yeah, what
You
did
know
you
what?
think
I
about
want people to just, if they think about these things and try start shipping them, think about Woody Allen, because
oh
that is a gross situation too. And
yeah.
just think about how gross he is, and
Paul
then
just
try to
watched
ship these fictional siblings. You won't be able to.
Paul just watched the Law and Order SVU episode that was based on Woody Allen. So, and a little bit of Roman Polanski. Man, what a wild, just gross
Yeah,
times.
just you.
So anyway, back to it. What did you think of Elaine outside of the brother cousin storyline?
Honestly, it was really hard for me to get over that to even think about anything else. Um,
Laura wakes up at night, but they were adopted.
twins. Ooh, I'll get you
Uh,
when Susan's available.
he really fought it. He said, "You know what time? It's done."
It also
Uh,
like makes me angry that this type of thing like gets played out so often in media where we have to have like the brother and sister that they grew up together, so of course they're in love. And it's like, how about people can have a close
No.
relationship and
Mm-mm.
common ground with someone and not
Want to have
have
sex with them?
to have sex with them? Like, come
No,
on.
absolutely not, Laura. How dare
Anyways,
you
Elaine.
suggest otherwise?
So what else happened to Elaine? She,
We found out that Harry, again, is a terrible detective because she's like, you don't think I was mind controlled? And it's like, did he never think that that was an option?
you know what?
What?
I don't think he paid that much attention to her, honestly.
I know we barely heard about her until like the
It's very
second or
much
third
all about
book.
Harry. And I like the fact that he was so surprised that she was even alive. Like, he's not doing that good of detective work, really.
It's really
But
not a good
I,
detective, guys.
no, he's not that great of a detective most of the time. He has a few moments, but most of the time he just kind of falls into it. I
Yeah.
think Elaine, though, like this was something that was kind of just like worked into this book, and I don't know that we'll see her again. I
I think we will definitely see her
You
again.
think so? You think this is a
Yeah,
major
because
character from now on?
I don't think it's going to be a major character from now on, but I think she's going to pop up every now and again, like, oh my
I think it's going
gosh,
to be one
what
of
could
those
have
things where,
been?
oh, I hope not. I hope it's not that type of situation. I was kind of hoping the relationship aspect of it was done, and that maybe she'd pop up if it was like, we need help with something. I got a girl who can help us.
I kind of see her
My
as
sister, we
the
used to date, like that type of thing.
don't ask too many questions. You don't want to think about it too hard.
Yeah, don't
Uh,
think about it too hard,
don't
but
think about it too hard, too hard. Um, I think she's going to be like the Lana Lang of this, where it's like, I was the one that got away, but we can't be together because it's just not right. That kind of thing. And it's like, but really, he needs a Lois Lane. And guess what Susan is? A reporter.
yeah.
So, it's gotta be her.
And she's naked a lot of times in his duster jacket, so that's also convenient for him.
Yep.
But
So,
I don't know. I feel like Elaine is maybe like I thought she was fairly interesting, and I was wanting to learn a little bit more about like the background, the stuff in between, but we didn't really
hmm
get that, so we probably will get it in future books. I thought she was very similar to Harry in many ways, honestly, in terms of like how she would jump in and out of things, how she was
hmm
leaving like kind of clues, and I don't know if she's meant to kind of be that character that Harry sees himself in and is
mm,
able to kind of like pick out some of the flaws. Um, but it feels like that a little bit where we're seeing a lot of Harry's traits in
yeah.
another person, and he's able to just be like, well, that is annoying. Why would you do that? Oh, wait, it's because you're a genius just like me. That type of thing. Yeah, I don't know.
I
How'd
think
you
that's a
feel
good
about her?
read because honestly, I thought she was a little bit boring. I didn't really get
Yeah.
much of her on the page. Like,
Well, because if Harry sees himself in Harry thinks he is awesome, but if he sees that in
yeah.
another person, he's like,
No, I
lame.
really like that read of like she's kind of a foil or like a mirror of Harry to like show
Hmm.
himself some of his worst traits. Because you're right, she is more like, I don't want to trust the council. I'm gonna do this on my own.
Yeah,
I think my part was
they
like
don't
she
care
didn't
about
really
you.
get that.
Yeah,
Yeah, she didn't get that much page time, which is
no,
interesting because like this was really supposed to be a big moment of like, oh my gosh, she's alive. And then Harry really only sees her in like two scenes and she's
yeah, because
passed
she
out in
takes
one of
off.
them. Yeah. And so I do think it's interesting to kind of have that in this where it does make me think that like, does Dresden or does Butcher need a woman in like three of these books before she gets a personality? And we're like not quite there yet with her. Like Murph has done her time. She's been
Mhm.
in three and a half books. Susan done her time. She gets a little bit more to do. She is now a vampire. Like it feels like sometimes the women need a little bit more time on the page to really cook. Where
I
like
don't know that he feels
yeah,
super comfortable writing women.
yeah, that might be very true. I don't think he feels comfortable writing women either because
I I
there's not
do
much of a
think
difference between
no,
them. No.
no, they're somewhat similar. I do think though that he feels pretty comfortable writing Harry. Like
Yeah.
I think he has it pretty fleshed out what he wants out of Dresden.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're writing a guy that is so like available
Self-involved.
and self-involved that it's really hard to write characters around that
Yeah.
character, especially love interests. I think would
Yeah.
be really difficult to write. And the thing is with this character in particular, he every woman is a love interest to him because he's amazing and
Hmm.
everyone loves him.
Yeah.
So it's tricky to write all these women to be dynamic characters when they all have to have one thing in common, which is they are extremely hot for Harry.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
It's
I don't know.
weird. It's weird.
Billy the Werewolf, though, great
Billy the Weird,
sidekick.
but like again, you're
You're my
right.
best friend.
He is a boy. So so Butcher feels a little bit
Yep.
more comfortable writing for Billy, writing for Michael, who had a ton of like different
Yep.
things and page time. And I think that's
Yeah,
the
the
thing is
difference
like,
between Michael and his wife is huge too, right?
yeah, yeah,
So I do think it's very much a Butcher, and I don't know. I'm just projecting. I don't know his process or how he actually truly felt at this time, but I'm just projecting as a reader going into this thinking I don't feel that he is super comfortable writing women, but I get a grasp that he is pretty comfortable writing men.
right.
They
I,
come
I
off the
think you're
page a
definitely
little more.
right. They do come off the page a little more. And I think like a lot of times the men get more characteristics because they get
Even
to
Bob gets
I
more.
think they get t- I think Butcher is really bad at writing Harry vulnerable. And with a lot of women, he gets like he's supposed to be vulnerable and he's so bad at it that like it doesn't feel interesting. But with men, like they're usually just being like, dude, get it together. And he's just like, I guess you're right. And then he becomes vulnerable with them. And it's like, well, if you could do this with women, then the women could become characters too. Like, that's not that
Mhm,
hard. Just have them reacting the same. But like, women are usually just like scaring Harry off with their boobs. So,
mhm.
yeah, I don't know.
I mean, they
But,
don't usually scare him off too much either. He is there to enjoy.
but I
But
did like Billy a lot. I thought Billy was a really good character. I liked him a whole lot more than I
he's a
liked,
much better sidekick than
than,
Michael.
oh, so much better. Just so much better. I
But
don't know.
honestly, it's another thing where it's like, doesn't do that much, just is very much there to be
There
like,
for Harry.
I'm your best friend.
I'm her best friend.
What do you need me to do, Harry?
I went over to your office and I got you a job.
Yeah. I took some messages for you.
Why? What
Like,
a weird man.
my
So,
question with that is, why was that the first objective where he was like, Mister has pooped all over the place because he didn't have a litter box. And
oh God, I
Billy
forgot
goes in
about
and he
that.
sees this place in disarray and he's like, better take a couple messages. Looks like his voicemail's full. Like, what?
There's like mold covering everything, and he's like,
Yeah,
but he might get evicted. And it's like, okay. Yeah.
baffling. Also, I do think that Harry continues to be an interesting character to me from the standpoint of when you're talking about him being vulnerable, he continues to be interesting from the standpoint of his self-deprecating way of speaking and also the way that he has a lot of trauma that he just
Yeah.
pushes away and
Hmm.
he is dealing with a lot really and it's going somewhat unnoticed by the people around him just because he's masking. He's
Yeah.
he's very much masking what's happening to him and his own mental health. And I do find that to be really interesting that we're getting this glimpse into
Yeah.
that. And I think that it makes for probably the most interesting aspect of Harry Dresden that we're seeing this kind of troubled person who just laughs away situations or
Hmm.
continues to just work through situations instead of addressing all of the things that he's going through and being vulnerable about needing help and struggling.
Yeah.
So,
I,
and which is incredibly relatable. And I also think that that's a unique character to have in a male because we tend to not see mental health talked about from
the male
male
perspective.
perspectives.
Yeah.
So I really hope that this becomes deeper because I think it could be incredibly like an incredible story.
Yeah, I think that that's very accurate. And I do think that it's shown through with like the scenes with the summer fairy where she lets Harry feel, and it shows like
Mhm.
how much he's been pushing down stuff and how much like he has that repressed trauma of what you're talking
Yeah.
about and those repressed feelings. And like it's funny to have those moments in a character like this where he's so quippy and he's supposed to be like high on life, but he and like we talk about like how he's supposed to be this 25-year-old guy who we don't believe is that beleaguered, but we're finally getting to the point where we can actually see it on the page and see how it's actually affecting
Hmm.
him and how he's pushing it down when it actually matters. It's almost like the affect of being beleaguered is easier than actually admitting to people that he feels
Right.
vulnerable and needs help. Yeah.
Right. What other characters we have? Toot Toot was back with all of his
Oh my
friends.
gosh. Toot toot, 10 out of 10, toot toot time.
You
Loved
are a Toot
it.
Toot stan.
I am a toot toot stan. I want a t-shirt with toot toot on it. Honestly, what
What
a
does the
great
Toot
guy.
Toot artwork look like?
I
I
don't
wonder if that's
know.
rough. That would be too bad.
Uh, if it's amazing, I want and
If
oh,
it's
he
amazing.
looks so funny.
Oh
He
yikes. I don't know about this Hannah.
some of the drawings are better, not like the graphic
The Wiki
novels, just like
Dresden
no, no, no. I don't want the Wiki
part
Dresden
looks rough.
guy. I want the little man who is on a Pinterest page who looks very cute with his little bottle cap, holding a pizza or death sign.
Pizza or Death.
Uh,
Okay, I see that one. That's a lot
yeah.
cuter.
Yeah, I want him on a t-shirt. I just want that
Okay.
because that's pretty dang cute. And I'm
Hmm.
a Toot stan. I like Toot. I like him saying 10 huts as he probably eats Pizza Hut. And what a cute little man. Like,
What did you think of like some of the other fairies?
I liked all the different types of fairies in this. I thought it was
Hmm.
really good to have like different types of creatures, not just have like fairies be, the pixies and the fairies that you're used or the
Hmm.
fae that you're used to seeing, but like the cat-like creature that you don't get to see in the shadows
Yeah.
was interesting. Um,
Centaur was really cool too. I even though
yeah,
like they were dicks, but
like
yeah,
you
that
said, the
was.
unicorn, that was
Hmm.
really cool.
I think all
So,
of the world building surrounding the fairies and like I honestly really liked the whole like battle above Chicago
yeah,
too. I thought that was cool. And it very much reminded me of kind of like a um almost like mythology type situation.
yeah,
It seemed like this book was very much mixing mythology themes with like a fairy tale twist. Like I
yeah.
that's kind of the vibe that I got and I was here for it. Like I I think vampires just really don't sit the best with me. I don't know. And I get it, there's more coming. But I think that
There's a war coming.
this to me was just I don't know, it was a good mix and I just thought that the fairies were pretty cool.
Yeah, I definitely like the fairies more. I'm a little bit more forgiving of vampires, but I also don't think I care that much about these vampires because they all seem a little, I
Bad.
don't know.
They're all just bad.
They're all just bad. They're all just kind of stupid. I don't like the like we
They're
care
like
about what
over the
humans
top
think about
villainy
us.
type thing.
Yeah, like it's just weird. So,
You know who
I'm
else
gonna
is over the top in this book? Morgan.
yeah.
Morgan went from being kind of hilarious to me to now I'm like, what's happening with this character? He's like practically just conspiracy theory territory now at this point. Like he's he's kind of gone off the deep end. I don't understand
That
what the
character
goal
makes
is
no.
with him.
I remember just again, the first book he was supposed to be Mr. Rule Man. And now he's just like, you killed someone I care about, and now I fucking hate you, and
The
you're
the
ridiculous. Yeah,
the difference between the first and the third book, like the first book, like you said, he's like a rule follower, and we can kind of like I felt like it was more funny in the first book to me at least because it was like, oh yeah, this is kind of hilarious. You know, someone who's like a strict rule follower who's going after
especially
this
up
guy
against
who's
Harry. Or
yeah, who's just
yeah,
like, I don't care about the rules.
right.
And that would be incredibly frustrating and then have to admit like at the end of every interaction like fine Harry you were right but now at this point he's just trying to kill this man basically for no
Yeah.
reason and it's just
I
like
mean, for reasons. He thinks he's
doesn't make
dangerous, but it
sense.
doesn't make sense. It's really stupid. I don't know. Yeah, I really hated Morgan.
So Morgan, you lost me buddy, we were gonna be I was gonna be your number one fan,
Laura is a
but
misrule follower, so you actually
I
had someone
know
who
we,
thought
we were
about voting for
we
you,
were
but
gonna be buds, but you lost me. Oh
no.
well.
I mean,
Oh
so
well.
sad. Yeah, I don't know. Overall, Morgan kind of sucks. I thought his
Yeah.
character was like pretty ineffective this time around.
Yeah,
He was
absolutely.
really helpful in the first book, but after that, he
It
just
made more
kind of
sense in the first book. It really that, if anything, should have been the one thing that remained the same about the
yeah,
first three books. Like keep Morgan the same because that was working. And
yeah,
it could have continued to work in this book too.
right.
Morgan's character didn't need to be changed up too much, but
But you guys
and maybe we're
decided to
getting a different
anyway.
read on this. I don't know. Maybe other people who read this are like, nah, Morgan makes sense to me, but I guess I'm just feeling like he's kind of just going out of his
Yeah,
way and making up things to be like, this is why we should get rid of Dresden. And it's like, no, that's not
it's like
why.
again, it's I already did one mean girl quote of the night, but like if it's like we should all just kill Caesar,
Yeah.
it's like okay, Kieran, like calm down.
No.
Um, yeah, he was a miss for me. What did you think about the other wizards of the council besides,
So there's
the
like
racist
McCoy
Overtones?
and yeah, the racist
Mr.
stuff.
South, Mr. South. I'm from the
Yeah.
South, and I love being from the South.
I think McCoy was the only one that we really get any like extended amounts of time with. And McCoy seems to be in Dresden's corner.
Yeah,
He doesn't really seem to be too bad at this point, Ebenezer McCoy. Um, I I don't really have too much to say about him, honestly. I
no,
feel like we
same,
get the
bro,
most
same.
exposure there where we're like learning that they're gonna add somebody to the council.
I
I
do like that in McCoy, you got someone who like actually was on Harry's side. Like I feel like we don't like we get a lot of
within
people
his
who
same
within
like
his yes.
not a fairy or not a vampire or whatever, someone who is also a wizard.
Yes. And he's also someone who's going to call Harry out on stuff where he's like, you're really not helping yourself.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to help you, but you don't seem to get the ramifications. So, like, shut up a little bit and figure out what you need to do to like stay on top of this. And I think that that is helpful to have because we didn't have that before.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
But yeah, the rest
Any
of the
final
council,
thoughts on Harry? I mean, he's our big character. He's the big one
he's,
that we've been kind of talking about him
yeah, I
throughout
feel like we've
here.
talked about him throughout. So I don't know if I have a ton left to say. Yeah, I think I'm kind of done. Do you have any final thoughts on him?
I feel like I still don't like him, but I'm slowly coming around. Like
Good.
this book is this was a really fun book. I really enjoyed this book. Like if this would have started, if I would have just jumped in at 4, I would have been maybe confused. But
Yeah.
I don't think that would have been the best place to do it. I do
No.
think though that this is a really good book, and I think that it's the writing flowing is honestly helping me appreciate Harry more.
Yes.
And I do think that as we go on, I'm going to
As we
continue to
go,
grow and
we
like him more.
remember.
Oh, I hate
Sorry.
that song.
I'm
Stupid
sorry. It was just
graduation
right
song.
there.
Oh my
You
gosh.
said as we go on, and I was like, we remember Harry
Uh,
Dresden,
oh
yours
no.
forever. Sorry. Laura's going to quit the podcast right here, right now.
I'm just gonna leave.
My
Exit meeting.
my extended rendition of Beautician and the Beast was not
Oh
enough,
my.
but this was a
That'll do
line
it
too
for me.
far. Yeah.
And with that, no, I just think that I'm mostly interested to see the ways in which Harry grows and has a self-discovery journey throughout this series
Yeah.
because I don't want him to just be this one-dimensional character that's just out there trying to save Chicago from the
Big bands.
danger. You
Yeah.
know, I want to see this character actually become introspective and
Hmm.
kind of address a lot of the trauma and things that have happened to him. And
Yeah.
we've just briefly touched on his parental situation and Elaine and everything. And we've yet to learn more about Justin. So I do think there's a lot of potential going forward, and I have high hopes.
Yeah.
So Yeah, this was a good book
Yeah,
to kind of keep me motivated to keep moving forward.
I
Because if
know.
we would have had another Grave Peril, I'd been like, oh my gosh, now we got to do another one. But now I feel very motivated to keep reading
I
because
will
I'm just like,
also
I like it.
say, for these books, I had a moment recently when I was looking back at all the books we've done. And like, I can't believe we've been reading these since April. Like, they did, like, the time moved by quickly, even if I didn't enjoy these books. Like,
Mhm.
it went by fast. So that's
Honestly,
not
I
nothing.
even the ones like the first three, I feel like we pretty heavily criticized, but I still liked them. I
Yeah,
even if we
they're
were,
romps.
they're definitely romps of books, but this was like the first one where I'm like, this had very few problematic moments to me,
Yeah,
and I just think that it's very good setup for Harry and Kieron going
yeah,
forward.
agreed.
Hannah, any final thoughts on Harry
I can't think of anything
or
else we haven't
Summer
really
Night?
covered. No, I did like the fact that we had the White Council in this book. I'm glad we finally met
Hmm.
them. I'm glad we kind of saw some of the bureaucracy
Yeah.
that is problematic and the way that it fails people. I think that that's actually a really smart move on Butcher's part because I feel like it's always been like
Hmm.
this. They're so secretive. They're
It's
so
yeah, it's always been
dangerous.
just kind of looming and we don't know anything.
But I like the way they did it. I like that we got to see like they all descended on a giant like meeting room and they're all just sitting there talking in Latin. Like it feels a little bit ridiculous and it feels like people like and Harry is someone who does buy into that stuff even though he says he doesn't and even though he's ineffective at it, he still does want to turn to the White Council a lot. He still
Hmm.
does want their help. And I do think it was good to have like Elaine on the other side being like, are they actually helping you? Like what's
Yeah.
going on here? So I did think that was really good. But other than that, no, just
Any
great book.
predictions for the next book?
Um, what's it called? Oh, hold on.
Death Masks.
I think it's gonna be more
I feel like Death
vampires.
Mask is going to be more vampire stuff.
Yeah, Death Masks feels vampire-y. So yeah, I think we're gonna get more vampires, guys. Laura's gonna hate it. There was
Yeah.
one other thing. Oh, I also did think it was good to have the big bad be like someone who just wanted pain to stop in the world. I thought that was actually really good because it shows, like, I thought like the difference between the,
People
the
really relate
summer
to a
court and the,
villain that
yeah.
wants to just end suffering,
Hmm.
even if there's even if it's like very problematic in the way that it happens. Like look, like I keep bringing up Thanos, but look at how
Yeah.
effective those movies were and
Hmm.
how people are like Thanos makes a point. I
Yeah.
mean, but then at the same time it's like, yeah, but look at the devastation that that
Right.
causes in order to make something like that happen. So I do think that those are very effective villains.
I agree. So yeah, I think overall, I thought I really liked that turn. I really liked the like darker look at these types of things. And, no notes on that. That was a good way to resolve that mystery.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't really care for the heroin addict, but it was the early 2000s, and that was
Hmm.
a typical
Yeah.
big bad,
That happened a lot.
unfortunately. Addiction is a problem. Like,
I also
uh,
did like the handover of like the power to between the fairies. I thought that that made, I mean, we said like, oh, just because she's nearby or whatever, but also
yeah.
it just kind of makes sense for power to be like to go into the closest vessel type thing.
Yeah, I thought that
So,
made sense. And I like that
hmm.
we kind of get like this person who wasn't in the
Hmm.
know of those types of things as the new
Yeah.
big powerful person. So that's good.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, just interesting moves. I'm excited to see where it goes.
I am too. It'd be, it would make my day if it was like more of a zombie type thing in Death
Oh, I
Masks.
know. I was hoping it would be zombies, but like
But
let's
I have a
face it, I
feeling
don't
he
think it would.
just wants it to be vampires.
Unfortunately, yes.
Fine. Fine.
Um, all right. Well, with that, y'all, we are closing out our deep dive into those summer nights.
Summer night.
Nights. But next time we will be covering chapters. You think I would do this before I talk to Laura?
Never.
Then just
Never.
we're bringing it to you from the streets. The
We would
first
never assume that.
the first 11 chapters of
Oh, so
some
this is a
of
shorter
Death
book.
Masks. Yeah, it is a shorter book. I picked it up from the library today and I was like, that's how big it is? Great. It was a good, I was
Great.
excited. So,
Wow.
wow, wow. Um, but it was also in hardcover, so the pages are a little bit bigger. But I always think like the paperback ones, it seems like a short, smaller print and things like
Mhm.
that. But it's only 338 pages. So
Great. Love to hear it. Love to
happy
hear it.
days. So join us next time for that. While you're waiting, we do have a bonus episode coming out next week, featuring our favorites, fiction fans, with our rendition of
Yay.
another nostalgia book club. We will be covering Just Ella, much to the delight of Sarah, who I
We
have
finally let
cut
Sarah
off.
read a fun book.
I kept cutting off at the knees when it came to these books. I reread Just Ella. I had a great time.
I
What a
haven't read
fun
it yet,
read.
but
Uh,
I'm hearing good things.
I enjoyed my time with it. So make sure you guys are reading that very, very short children's novel or just joining us to laugh through some of the
Yeah.
fun things of it. You can also rate, review, and subscribe. Rating, reviewing, and subscribing is a great way to bring more people to the podcast or just, give us a nice little happy day as we see someone else subscribing each week. You can also follow us on all the platforms at OWWR Pod, including Tickety Talk, where Hannah posted a couple different things from
Mhm.
our earlier Dresden episodes recently. So make sure you are checking those out. Also, check out
We had some funny
ourpod.com.
quips that I hope make it onto TikTok. So I'm
uh,
ready to be TikTok famous.
you're ready to be TikTok famous. I did post
Sure.
us making fun of Harry's detective skills, and lots of people had some great, or not lots of people, but we had a couple of fun comments on that
Oh,
one where
good.
people, I can read them to you right now. This is
That's all right.
okay. I could, but Laura does not care enough. So yeah, make sure you're following us over on TikTok and also check out ourpod.com where we do have our reading schedule as well as some other great things up there. So make sure you're always
And also
checking
check out our
that
author
out.
highlight that went up last week,
Yes,
which
Cameron
was with
Johnston.
Cameron Johnston, author of The Last Shield and The Maleficent Seven.
He
So,
is delightful. He's so nice. I
yes.
sent him the questions and he got them back to me right away. It was so
Oh,
sweet. So make sure you're checking that out and as well as some of our author interviews. We do have an author interview section on our or on Spotify. So always make sure you're checking that out as
nice.
well. You can reach us everywhere, guys. Just
And we're
hang
on
out.
Discord. We
Uh,
haven't been as active on Discord, but I would love for some people to just shout out what you
well,
guys have been reading and watching. Like
please tell
I
us.
I would love to hear what you all have been reading and watching or enjoying. Like
We
tell me what Sirius XM channel you're listening to or
As
what
long as
High
it's
School
not
Musical
Fox, we're not
movie
interested.
well, yeah, maybe not. Tell me what High School Musical movie you thought was the best. Like
Yes, there we
come
go.
talk to me about Disney movies, and I want to know what you're watching. Tell me what shows are hitting you right now.
As the great summer night song says, tell me more,
Yeah,
tell
tell
me
me more. Tell
more.
me more. Like, does he have
uh-huh,
a car?
uh-huh, uh-huh.
Interesting because Harry does have a car, a Blue Beetle
Harry
that breaks down all the time.
breaks down all the time. So we're back. All right.
Full
With
circle. Thanks for listening. And
five out
you
of
can
five
also support us
podcast.
on Patreon
Oh,
if
yeah.
you so choose. We would love that. And we have a lot of
Uh,
fun bonus content there too.
We do. We do a bonus episode every month, as well as some bookmarks. If you just do our $1, we
Yay.
just posted season 3 because we're kind of going through a backlog. But some great things to come on that end. So make sure you are following us over on Patreon as
And
well.
thanks for listening today. We
Of
really
course.
appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.